Hi, my name is Leon Hemstreet, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of these zoom-in animations using Google Earth. These are really great for trying to show in a PowerPoint or in a video where in the world you are or where in the world your project is or something similar to that. We'll be doing this using Google Earth Studio as well as a couple other pieces of software. I'm going to go through it, just the basics for the first part of this video, and then the second part we'll go into some specifics and troubleshooting. So don't be daunted by the length of this video, and let's get started. So to get started making these animations, you're going to need to have access to Google Earth Studio. Google Earth Studio is a relatively new program developed by Google to try and make it easier to make some attractive animations with their Google Earth product. The only problem right now is that Google Earth Studio requires you to sign up. If you are asking for an education or a nonprofit license like I did, it took about a week or two for them to get my request filled out and get me access. So this is something that you have to do ahead of time. If you're trying to do something fast, you can do something similar using Google Maps Pro, and not Google Maps Pro, Google Earth Pro, and I'll have a separate video on how to do that. But for now, I'm going to move over to my other account where I already have access to Google Earth Studio. So here's my other account where I have access to Google Earth Studio, and we are going to jump in. So to start, I'm going to click on this little arrow next to blank project and click on quick starts. And here there are a couple different options of presets for making these kinds of animations. And a lot of these are really cool, and you can use these for different effects, but we're going to focus on the simplest one, which is Zoom to. And so we hit start, and it brings us to this page. So first, it's going to have you set your point of interest, and this is going to be where your video ends. So you can either do this by clicking and zooming. You can click and drag with your mouse and zoom in and out with your wheel, or you can set your point of interest. So here I'm going to type in the name of, for example, I'm trying to look at Kinjivatu, Madagascar. And it will zoom me right in here. So this looks like it's a little bit close to me, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and that looks good. Next, I'm going to have to set my starting point. So I'm pretty sure people know what Africa looks like and where it is in the world, so I'm going to actually zoom in to kind of southern Africa, and I'll let this be my starting point. You don't want to set your starting point too high up or your ending point too close to the ground, because then the animation is going to move so fast that people aren't going to have a good chance to look at what's going on. So once again, I can click and drag, zoom in and out, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the green arrow, and this will give me a nice sample of my animation. I think that's a little bit short. That feels real fast. So I'm going to bump this up to, let's say, 15 seconds. And now we are into Google Earth Studio. I'm going to real quick save my work, save as, let's call this Zoom to Kinjivatu. Save. And that saves it into your Google Drive. Now I'm going to get a little bit into the interface here, and like the real important stuff. So first, obviously on the right, you have your preview window. On your left, you have your map with your north on your x-axis, your altitude on your y. And down here is your timeline, which is where you'll be controlling most of your stuff. So I'm going to hit play and watch a little preview of my animation. And you can see it's showing me basically the same thing as before. So the things that you're most likely going to want to change is, first of all, that rotation. Personally, I don't want that rotation on there. So I'm going to go down to my timeline. I'm going to scroll until I see camera rotation. Then I'm going to take my little red playhead, put it on this diamond, and those represent keyframes. And so a keyframe is like a set position that the camera is going to move to. So by default, there's a keyframe right at the beginning, which we set, and the keyframe right at the end. And so I'm going to set it so that my ending keyframe is also at 0 degrees. And now if we play the animation, bring it back to the beginning, it does the zoom in without as much spinning, or without any spinning. And I think that's a little bit better. You can adjust with fine detail a lot of these different parameters by clicking on them. So for the camera position, here's altitude, and here's a graph of the altitude, but that's more complex stuff we'll get into in the second half of the video. For now, there's just two other things I wanted to highlight. First of all, is with the views. Map style, there are 3 different map styles. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see it's got some of these other cities and locations. If I want less of those, I can go to clean, and it will just show me, if I get back on my camera track here, it won't show me any information. Or I can go to everything, and it will show me lots of stuff. It'll show me highways and parks and a whole bunch of other things. So you can decide, I'm going to stick with the default exploration. And then the other thing you might want to change is your project settings. So by default, Google Earth sets it to 3840 by 2160. That's your resolution, and it's 4K. And then it sets your frame rate to 30 frames per second. If you're making this for a PowerPoint, you can drop these dimensions to 1920 by 1080. And if you're doing that, you can also keep this at 30 FPS. If you're using this for video, 30 FPS is also fine. That's what most cameras shoot at. But if you just want to do this once and be able to drag and drop it wherever you're going to use it and have whatever program you're using decide what it's going to do, I think the best option is to go 3840 by 2160 at 60 frames per second. So your dimensions kind of determine how much detail there is in your image, how many pixels there are, and your frame rate determines how smooth your image is by how many images it shows you in a second. So I just like to max both of these out, but again, if you're just going to use this in a PowerPoint, you can just set this to 1920 by 1080, set this to 30 frames per second, and this will save you some space and save you a little bit of time when you're rendering. If you do change the frame rate, make sure to tick this box so that it moves where your points are, your starting and your ending points, as it changes the frame rate. So those are the main things. I'm just going to give it one more check over, see that I like it. And that looks pretty good to me. You can see how it's kind of stuttering here. That's just because it's trying to make this in real time, and it won't do that in the final video. So now I'm going to click this red render button. And here, again, you can set your dimensions, your how much resolution you want, and then also you can change where this attribution watermark is. I'm just going to move it to the bottom right just to demonstrate that you can change that. And then we'll hit start. So this is going to render our video, and for a 15-second clip of 4K video at 60 frames per second, so basically the maximum that you would reasonably do, it takes about 10 minutes for this to run through. So we're going to take a pause and come back. So here we are in our downloads folder. Once Google Earth Studio is done rendering your video, it will send it to your downloads folder as a zip file, and you'll need to extract this. So at the maximum settings, my little 15-second video takes up about 2.6 gigabytes, and so it takes a little bit for this extraction to take place. But once it's done, it's going to create this folder in our downloads folder with 3 files. So this is our project file for Google Earth Studio. So this way we can put the, if we lose for some reason our Google Drive, we can remake this animation again later. This just gives you the sources for whatever images it used to create the animation. And then here's the footage. So Google Earth Studio doesn't create video files. Excuse me, sorry. Google Earth Studio doesn't create video files. It just creates a series of images, and it expects you to convert these images into a video yourself. And so there's 2 ways that I suggest doing this, one for Mac and one for PC. Up until this point, it's been the same for both. So I'm going to start with how you're going to do it for PC. So if you're going to be converting your images to a video on Windows, you're going to need to download a program called AvidMux. There are a lot of softwares that can do this, but this is one that I suggest. It seems to be pretty regularly updated and pretty widely supported. So you can just go to the downloads page and then select the 64-bit Windows version. And here, select 64-bit Windows version and download it. Then just follow the normal installation procedure. Then you're going to want to open AvidMux. And in order to convert your images into video, you need to click on Open Video, and select your downloads folder, zoom to Kinjavatu, footage, and then select the first image in the sequence. So it should be whatever your name is, _000. It's going to take a second to import the video. And here is where there's a little bit of issue. So AvidMux will assume that your video is in 24 frames per second. And so you need to change just a couple of settings here. First, for video output, you want MPEG-4 AVC. This is probably the most widely compatible video codec, which is why I'm picking it. For audio, it doesn't matter. And then for output format, you're going to want .mp4. And again, this is just, I'm picking the most widely accepted options. Finally, we're going to need to change the frame rate. So right now, my 15-second video is 36 seconds long. So I'm going to go to Filters, and then Change FPS. And then I'm going to set this to 23.976 or 24, which is film, which is what I think the default is. And then to the destination FPS, whatever you had it set to in the Google Earth Studio. So I set mine to 60 frames a second or 59.93, and then hit OK. And then go ahead and hit close. So this won't actually change down here, but when you output the video, it should change it to the correct frame rate. So now I'm going to hit save. You can tell I've already done this a couple times, so I'm going to go back to my downloads folder just so everything's in the same place. And I'm going to go into my Zoom to Kinjavatu, and I'm going to call this Zoom to Kinjavatu movie. And depending on how fast your computer is, this is going to take a couple of minutes. All right, and now it says the file has been successfully saved, and we kind of see it up here in our downloads folder. Hit OK. I'm just going to minimize this for a second, and we'll test our little clip. And that looks pretty much just like it did in Google Earth Studio. And now we are done for Windows. So next, I'm going to show you how to do the same thing on Mac OS. So everything up until we opened AvidMux is the same on Mac. And in fact, AvidMux can run on Mac, but you can also do it with some of the default programs built into Mac OS as well. So I'm going to hop over on my Mac and show you how to do that now. All right, so assuming you did the first part of this video on a Mac, you'll end up with a folder called Zoom to Kinjavatu in your downloads folder, and then a footage folder within it. For me, because I did the first part on a PC, I just copied it over the Mac here to show you. And in order to convert all of your images into a video, you'll need to use QuickTime, which should be built into your computer. So if you just go to the search bar and type in QuickTime, it should pop up as the first result. And it will have a file picker for you here. But as you can see in my footage folder inside Zoom to Kinjavatu, I can't select these images. What you have to do is go up to the menu bar, go to File, Open Image Sequence, and then it will let you pick your images. So you want to click on your first image, and then you can't actually hit Command A, because sometimes on Mac when you hit Command A or Select All, it will skip random sections. It didn't do it this time, but I've had it do it to me a couple times in the past. So the safer way to do it is either to click on the first option, hold Shift, and then hold the down arrow key and just let it scroll all the way through. Or a slightly faster method is to click on the first option, hold Shift, and hold Option at the same time, and then press the down arrow key. And just to be safe, slowly scroll through your images to make sure that there's not any white spaces in there. So hit Choose Media. And then for resolution, just click Actual Size. For frame rate, set it to whatever you set it to in Google Earth Studio. In this case, 60 frames per second, 59.94 also works. And then encode for greater compatibility is how I would do it. This is the best way to do it if you're going to be using it for PowerPoint especially. Then we'll hit OK. And we'll let it write the video. This is going to take a couple of minutes. Your computer might get a little bit loud, but we'll just let this run and we'll fast forward through this part. Okay, so QuickTime has finished creating our video, and now we'll just hit play and give it a look to make sure that it looks good. And that looks about right. And that looks good to me. Okay, so now I'm going to hit File, Save, and I'm going to put it just outside of my footage folder in my Zoom to Kinjavati folder. Call it Zoom to Kinjavati Mac. And there we go. So now if we go back to our Zoom to Kinjavati folder, here is our video. And we'll just double check it again, make sure that it works, looks good. And now you're done. So you should be able to just click and drag this video into your PowerPoint or whatever video project that you're doing. So we're back in Google Earth Studio, and there's been a slight change of plan. I'm going to come back to some of the more advanced stuff you can do in Google Earth Studio in a separate video. But right now, I just wanted to show you something that I think is particularly important for EWB users, and that is putting in locations of really rural places. So if I go back to Quick Starts into Zoom 2, I hit Start, I'm going to type in the name of another one of our projects, which is, not Cameroon, the Sindoe community in Zambia. And when I hit Enter, nothing shows up. So it turns out that a lot of really rural places are not going to be mapped by Google Earth. For example, if you've got like a bridge site somewhere on a river, which is what our use case is. So in that case, you're going to need the coordinates for your this location that you're trying to map, and specifically you need them in decimal systems. So here is the GPS coordinates. I just copied and pasted them from one of our GPS units that we brought there. You can also do this in Google Maps, just finding the place you need to be, dropping a pin, and grabbing the coordinates there. So you can hit that, and then it will bring you to your location. So that's our spot. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. This isn't a great shot, but it kind of gives you an idea of where we're heading and the place that we're trying to image. Yeah, unnamed road, I guess. Kazungula. Yeah, that's kind of close. Anyways, we'll set our starting altitude somewhere around here. And then it should be set to go. Let's bring this up to 10 seconds. And that looks pretty good. So that's the other main important thing I just wanted to show you is how to input custom coordinates into Google Earth Studio. Again, the main thing is that you just have to make sure that you put them in decimal system. Degrees, minutes, seconds doesn't work. So that's all I have for this little video. I hope it's useful to you. I hope this helps you communicate your messages a little bit better, and I will see you some other time. Thank you.